So I saw a few other channels do this video, and while I haven't watched theirs in hopes that I can be original, I loved the idea. So this is not an original idea, but to think through what are 25 things that I should probably get rid of before 2025. Some of these are things I've recently decluttered or really should decluttered but haven't yet. But the point of this is to get thinking creatively about what is it in my space that's holding me back, making life harder, so that I can forge a path into the future that feels lighter, more free, more open, so that I can build the lifestyle that I really envision for myself. Hopefully this will kind of get you in the mood to declutter too and get excited about starting a new year. Also, I admit I'm saying to get rid of these before 2025, but maybe it's even into 2025. We're not judgment on timeline here. Some of these I may not get around to until a little bit into 2025, but I'm working at it, and that's what matters. Also, really quickly before we get started, I just want to say hi. My name is Aylin. For those of you who are new here, welcome. I make videos on simple living, minimalism, and building an empowering mindset. So if any of that interests you, please hit the subscribe button below and follow along for more. I hate it when I find creators and I can never find them again. So if this type of topic interests you, I'd encourage you to join me. And if you end up liking the video, hit the thumbs up button. It's a great way to support the channel. So here we go, 25 things to declutter to help us all think more critically about our spaces and really build the future and the lifestyle that each of us wants to build. First, think about the holiday decorations you didn't even put out this year. If you didn't use it this year during the holidays, maybe it's a sign that it's just not going to be used that much in the future, or the likelihood that if you declutter it, that you'll regret decluttering it is probably pretty low. You survived without it this year, you probably could live without it next year, and it'll just take up less storage space if you eliminate it. Plus, it's easier to find the decorations you actually like and actually use if you eliminate the ones that you don't like or use. Second, declutter those repetitive black sweaters or black tops. When I say repetitive, I mean when you basically just have several of the same sort of thing. Maybe they're not identical, but they serve the same purpose. Now, obviously, if you have one black type of t-shirt that you wear pretty much every day, having numerous makes sense, but quite often we end up having many of the same type of thing. I'm guilty of it because I end up shopping for the same kind of thing over and over again, looking for the perfect version, which I can never really find, and I end up with a lot of the same. For me, it's quite often black sweaters and big black tops. Now, will I keep some black things? Do I still wear black? Of course, but considering I have a long history of purchasing way too many black things, and I do think I'm not alone in this, it's maybe a time to downsize that area of our wardrobes because it's just not as in, and it's a good opportunity to really crystallize and clarify which of my black tops do I actually like, do I actually reach for, do I actually enjoy wearing. Third, eliminate those backup skinny jeans. Now, I'm not saying get rid of all your skinny jeans. Listen, I still have a pair or possibly two. I admit it. But I have downsized how many pairs of skinny jeans I own because honestly, they're just not as in style right now. Not that you can't wear them, but they're not as in style. I'm not reaching for them as much. And again, it's a good opportunity to find the ones that aren't that comfortable or that got ripped or worn out or that I just don't like for whatever reason. Taking the opportunity to whittle down categories that aren't even in right now, it's a great chance to do that. Fourth, downsize the gear for your old hobbies that you no longer engage in. I say downsize because sometimes hobbies do that where they go through waves of interest. Like a couple years ago, you were really into, say, painting, and now you're not as into it, but maybe in another year you will be again. And sometimes it is helpful to have things that are genuine interests of yours, even if you don't always have the time for that interest. But come on, don't we tend to keep too much of it? Don't we tend to have like a big box or something full of stuff and it's this all or nothing thinking around our old hobbies? Instead, I'm just going to try to think more critically. I'm going to go through some of those boxes of things that I'm just not really doing anymore and really try to downsize, like cut it in half or a third of what it is. That way you'll have something to go back to if you do re-engage in that habit. But if you're just not doing it, it's just wasting space. Fifth, downsize your silverware. If your silverware drawer or basket or whatever it is never empty, like you always have a perpetual supply of silverware, it might be a sign you don't need to have access to that much silverware all the time. And sometimes it'll just get kind of gross and in the way, and then eventually in your silverware drawer there will be more crumbs and it'll be grosser because it's never empty and you never really have an opportunity to clean it unless you go out of your way. And so not that you necessarily have to eliminate extra serveware or silverware, but at least maybe put it away in storage. Have the access space to your silverware be a spot where you just have what you need, because it just makes doing the dishes easier, and it keeps you washing things and reusing things so that your kitchen doesn't get as messy. It forces you to do the dishes sooner by having less. And so especially for that silverware drawer, but really anywhere in your kitchen, if you never are empty on a shelf or never are empty in a drawer, maybe it's a sign you have too much just stored right at your fingertips, and it's just making your life harder and more chaotic. Sixth, get rid of that old tablet or other electronic device that you never use. If you never use it, you're not going to use it, lose it. Kind of a simple and straightforward one, but sometimes we forget because we think of tech as expensive. We're not sure how to eliminate it from our spaces. So go just do a Google search to figure out how you can eliminate this old electronic device. Take the 5 minutes to figure it out and just do it. It'll free up a lot of space. Seventh, declutter those old family VHS tapes. Now, I'm not saying totally eliminate them, but transfer them into digital storage. It's so easy to do this. You can even do mail-in options where you mail in VHS tapes and they'll put it on like a hard drive or a USB drive, or you can take it into local places if you just figure out one near you. But I swear digitizing those old family videotapes can save a bunch of space and also make them more shareable and more accessible. Eighth, declutter clothing that is no longer relevant to your season of life. If you have clothing from some old job that had a uniform, or you have clothing that either used to be in style or was kind of based on a younger version of yourself and you just would never wear it now, get rid of those things. I know for me, now that I'm transitioning into being a mom and having kind of a slightly different new lifestyle, I just don't need the same number of like really short skirts, or again, not that moms can't wear that. I'm just saying for me, like I'm just not going to reach for that as much anymore. Just with the activities I'm doing, I'm not like going out to places where I would wear that kind of thing. Basically, just think about how you actually spend your time. And if you're keeping something just because you used to use it a lot, I don't know, maybe think about, do I need to bring this into my future? Old ingredients for holiday baking. If you didn't use it this year, again, get rid of it. If you're not really using them and you're baking this year, it might be a sign that you don't really need them. 10th, declutter old dog toys or kids' toys. If they're broken, if they're actually potentially dangerous to your dog or child, or if they're just not really getting used anymore, or even if there are just too many, eliminating them can be helpful. Because I do think sometimes also when we have fewer of something, we end up enjoying those things more anyway. Like I've noticed when my dog Ginger just has fewer toys, she ends up liking the ones she has even more. She uses them more and engages with them more. It's like when she has a whole huge box of them, some just stay at the bottom forever and she doesn't seem that interested. So I feel like that's a mindset we can apply to toys across the board for kids or for dogs. And I think the new year is a great time to sift through those things and clarify what you want to bring into the future. 11th, eliminate excess mugs. This one is like always on the decluttering list for me because somehow in life, people just give you mugs. You get mugs from events, you get mugs from conferences, you find a cute mug online and you order it. Whatever the reason, I feel like sometimes we can have way too many mugs, and mugs are particularly annoying because once you start stacking them, they get extra difficult and extra almost dangerous to put away. Like you're worried they'll start falling on you. So just look through your mugs, figure out what you actually need and enjoy using, and get rid of the rest. 12th, go through your cleaning supplies and eliminate what you don't need. I personally need to remember to do this because I really think actually looking through your cleaning supplies can help remind you, what have I wasted money on? What have I been wasteful on? And what cleaning supplies do I actually use? Because so often there are these cleaning supplies niche items that I never use. I never even remember I had. And so basically, this is just a reminder to go through and get rid of the stuff you don't need that's just wasting space, but also clarify what are the products that I've just been buying over and over that I never really use. almost to be more thoughtful and less wasteful in the future. And again, that's a lesson that I think we can apply across many categories. Decluttering isn't just about reducing chaos in your space and getting rid of stuff. It's about learning from your own habits, getting to know yourself better, and using that to be more thoughtful about purchasing in the future. Ultimately, you're going to save more money, be less wasteful even to the environment if you're more strategic with your purchasing. So decluttering is a great opportunity to face the reality of your past wastefulness and try to learn from it. 13th, get rid of the pajamas that you have that are not comfy. Just get rid of them. Remember to do laundry a little more often and use the ones that you actually like. 14th, eliminate unused luggage. If you have some big duffel or suitcase that you just never use, maybe it's worn out, maybe you've been meaning to repair it or whatever. I mean, repair it if it needs repairing, but if it's just an extra luggage item that you never use, it's a great opportunity to free up a lot of space because luggage takes up so much space in your home, and it's a great way to suddenly have a bunch of new space. So often it's helpful to think about the volume of pieces when you're decluttering and to be more kind of harsh on the pieces that take up more physical space, because the more you can declutter, the bigger piece items, the faster your space will feel more freed up and streamlined. 15th, declutter those extra bed linens that you just never use, especially sheets. If you've got a bunch of extra sets of sheets that you just don't use, eliminate them. I tend to try to have about one set of sheets for each bed, maybe one backup or one backup per bed. But more than that just tends to breed more chaos, and then you're like not sure which sheets are clean, or you just have a set of sheets that sits there and that you never use and just takes up space idly. Now, I will say sometimes I'll have one sheet that I use as like a picnic sheet or a picnic blanket. I love a picnic sheet as opposed to a regular picnic blanket because then it's often bigger, there's more space, it's easier to throw in the wash after. So maybe sometimes I keep one extra sheet for that purpose, but in general, just have one and maybe one backup, and that's really all you need. 16th, and this one is really relevant to this time of year, at least in the area that I live, it's to declutter gloves or mittens that don't have a mate. So if you just have one glove but you don't have the other and you've been looking for years and you just can't find them, maybe it's time to declutter that glove. Because it is the worst thing when you're in a rush going out the door to be reaching for a pair of gloves and you keep finding like one of a kind, another one of a kind, so many right pairs of gloves, and you just can't get out the door. It's way easier if you only have, say, the one pair that has both. I think this is a helpful one, again, especially for this time of year. 17th, declutter the formal wear you just know you're never going to use again, especially if it was like a bridesmaid dress for a particular wedding or just a clothing item from some very specific niche event that you know you're not going to use again. Just declutter it. So often we keep those things just out of guilt, out of feeling like, well, maybe I'll use it in the future, or just out of nostalgia or that feeling of fondness towards those memories of what happened in that garment. Just let that stuff go. That's emotional baggage that you don't necessarily need to bring with you. And there are other ways to remember those special days in our lives than taking up closet space. Quite often thrift stores are great places actually to get bridesmaids dresses, for example, so they might love getting that old dress, or someone might love it when they find it. 18th, get rid of clothes that don't fit you. You don't need to have your clothes screaming guilt at you or making you feel bad about yourself. Just let them go, or at the very least, put them away in storage. You don't have to have all your clothes at your fingertips at all times, especially if it's the type of clothes that literally don't fit you, or that, again, basically hide the pieces of clothing you do like. So I don't know, don't just keep something because it was once expensive or used to be your favorite clothing item. If it doesn't fit you, it's okay to let it go. It might actually make you feel better about your closet. 19th, get rid of beauty samples you've never used. You know those little tiny samples of perfume or little makeup samples? Declutter them. You don't need them. You're not going to use them. 20th, a related one, is to declutter expired or really old makeup. And believe me, I can't really talk when it comes to this one because I tend to keep my makeup for literally years to a degree where it's probably not a good thing. But I think reminding myself that makeup does eventually expire, I don't know, it helps me let go of some of those items that are just kind of sticking in your bag or your organizing bin and that you're never really going to use. 21, get rid of that oven mitt that is gross. The one that has food caked onto it, that's kind of burned, that maybe even has a hole in it and doesn't protect you anymore. I recently got rid of an old oven mitt and I have a fresh pair instead of just one also, which makes it easier to actually cook and put things in and out of the oven. And I love the fresh pair. I don't have to keep the same oven mitt forever. Sometimes I forget that. 22, get rid of those perpetually smelly shoes. You know the ones, maybe they used to be your favorite and you wore them every day for years on end, but if they're just kind of smelly or so used that you never reach for them, you gotta let them go. And I think this is a good lesson again in general. If there is a belonging that is so used and so beloved that you're keeping it out of principle, like maybe I'll love it as much and use it again, just remind yourself it is not in the condition it used to be. If it really is worn out or smelly even, it's time to let it go. Of course, I'll add the caveat that quite often you can clean your shoes, that is possible, but if it's just beyond repair, this is just a reminder, don't just keep something out of nostalgia or the fear that you'll miss it at some point. If it's really old and worn out, you can let it go. That brings me to my 23rd one, which is in general, if there are belongings in your home that gross you out, so you avoid using them, this is your reminder you can declutter them. So I'm talking like that really old, gross broom that you just don't like using, or that old vacuum cleaner that you've cleaned out numerous times, but it just kind of seems to puff a bunch of dust in your face anytime you use it and doesn't really work correctly. Or anytime there's just some belonging that you're just like, ugh, every time you use it. Maybe this one's obvious, but sometimes I feel like we forget to declutter those things and they just kind of stick around in the back of the closet or the back of the storage area for years on end. And sometimes we just need that reminder, hey, you can actually just get rid of it. 24, this is a simple one, but it's a good reminder. Get rid of your dead batteries. If they don't work anymore, make sure you discard of them appropriately. Let them go, because those little things you can end up finding in a million different places in your home. And then when you want a new battery, you're constantly going through old dead batteries and it's super annoying. So look out for those batteries because they will get you. A 25th one, if there is anything still in boxes from an old move, you can probably let it go. Now, I won't blame you if you want to go through the box and make sure there's nothing in there that's important. And of course, there are some things that are meant to be stored most of the year, like, again, holiday decorations, or maybe you do like to keep a little bit of paraphernalia from the past or memories or something like that. There are exceptions to this rule, but in general, if you just have a couple of boxes that you're like, I don't even really know what's in that, but I'm just bringing it along with me into my future because I don't know what else to do with it, maybe the new year is a good time to go through and sift through and figure out, what do I really want to bring into my future? Because it is so exciting when you just clear out one little extra corner of space, even in a storage area. In that moment when you clear out that space, it feels like the world is suddenly your oyster. Like I can start building a future. I can have more stuff to fill up my life, almost like in a metaphorical way, not necessarily a literal way. When I have more physical space, there's more possibility for a future. When we hold on to things from our past, we're just kind of getting stuck in the past sometimes, or at least I found I tend to do that. That when I bring things from my past into my future, it's almost like a physical representation of a psychological thing that's going on. Whereas if I let go of some of that, just clear out a little bit of space, I feel psychologically more freed up to pursue new things and to be excited about the future. And it also ends up just making life logistically easier when you do have stuff that you need to stash there. You have a spot. So my point is, free up the space. If there is just box after box of stuff in a corner that you haven't dealt with, I think this can be a good time to go through that and to free up some space. Anyway, those were my ideas for things to declutter before 2025 or sometime early on in the new year. And I hope that it got you thinking too. I'd love to hear what you are all planning to declutter during this season. And yeah, don't be a stranger. Leave a comment on your decluttering journey, where you're at, what you're thinking of decluttering, because quite honestly, I don't always respond to all the comments, but I really try to read a lot of them, and I learn so much from all of you, so join the conversation, even if you're not somebody who typically comments, because historically, I'm not a big commenter on YouTube, honestly. I've had to almost train myself to try to sometimes respond, even to comments on my own videos. I'm just not good at it. I don't know, I get a little shy. Yes, of course, commenting is also a way to support me. It helps the video do better, but honestly, I just love hearing from all of you. It's part of the reason why I do this channel, is to just engage with other people who have similar mindsets or different ideas about how to approach dealing with stuff or building confidence or an empowering mindset. I love engaging with people and learning from all of you. So leave a comment about what you're decluttering or ideas for how to think about what do I actually need to bring with me into 2025. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it, another great way to support the channel. And yeah, thank you so much for spending this little bit of time with me, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye!